Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Stop Playin podcast. It's your favorite homegirl, Coriel, here to encourage you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. You already know that I'm bringing you the information and the conversations to help you make the money and get the honey. You can have it all as long as you are willing to work. And if y'all are true to this, you ain't new to this, then you already know that I have been doing so many conversations centered around wellness, whether it's your mental well being, your physical, spiritual well being, as I just dive deep and dig deep to discover my own wellness needs and develop my own wellness practices. I wanted to make sure that I was leveraging and using my platform to bring you all people who could help you along your wellness journey too. A big thing that I want to make sure we bring into every single wellness conversation is your true power. I think really need to be empowered, especially when it comes to our health and our wellness, because there's so much misinformation. There was so much miseducation during our upbringing, and so we got to peel back the layers and start to re-educate ourselves so that we can take back our power and really stop looking to doctors and their diagnoses to define our destiny. So today we are going to jump into a conversation with nurse and coach Ashley Smith. Ashley, I would love for you to give yourself a proper introduction to the Girl Stop Playing audience.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy and excited to be here. So, my name is Ashley Smith, as mentioned. I've been a nurse for over 15 years, but about 4 years ago, once COVID hit, I realized how bad of a shape our community specifically was in, because when COVID started, so much African Americans were dying, and it made me want to stop and figure out what are we doing or what's been happening to us, why we are being so affected by COVID. And it led me down a path to holistic nursing, lifestyle medicine, and just teaching African Americans how to take care of themselves outside of the medical system, because we are becoming more and more sick. And that shows me that the medical system is not working for us, and there's something else that we should be doing. So this is kind of what propelled me into the work that I do right now, which is coaching mainly African American women on how to be healthy as a whole, not just doing one thing or the other, like encompassing the mind, the body, the spirit, to be well. So I am happy to be here and to share as much knowledge with you and your audience as I can.
That's what I love so much about the concept of this holistic approach. And unfortunately, I feel like it's the complete opposite of Western medicine and how most of us were raised. As I mentioned, I've had several conversations and gotten so many amazing perspectives from different practitioners and different women in this space. But on a previous episode, I had someone mention that they had to shift their thinking to look at Western medicine to treat acute illnesses and Eastern medicine, holistic medicine for everything else. And what that means is, if you break your arm, okay, go to the hospital, like that is where you go for that. But if you are looking to live well or to be preventative, your primary care physician is not necessarily the best place to go, but that is not what we're taught. And so it takes a pandemic or it takes a personal experience for you to start, researching outside of the norm. And so I love that you didn't just notice okay, these trends, and you notice these disparities, but you wanted to do something about it. And so I love that you were willing to do the work, and that kind of led us here. So talk a little bit more about what you're currently doing, because we have an idea of what a traditional nurse does, but how are you currently serving your clients?
So I have started my own business, which is a coaching business, right? And I like to kind of say it's a health and wellness nurse. I'm a health and wellness nurse coach. And what that means is that I help people identify their needs and their goals, right? So it's not, I don't drive these conversations. It is not my goals that drive these conversations. It's the goal of the clients in which I am speaking with. Then I help you to meet those goals. And we all know that behavior change can be difficult. It takes support, it takes time, it takes energy, planning, it takes consistency, which people struggle with a lot of the times, and it definitely takes determination. So, as a nurse coach, I build our relationship, I support people, I encourage them. The most important thing for me is empowerment. I empower the people that I work with, and then I do challenge them and motivate them, and I have really tough conversations which help to facilitate in reaching their goals. And just like holding people accountable, because we kind of create goals and then we forget them. So sometimes we need someone to say, hey, remember you had that goal. If it's to lose weight, which is what I run into most of the time, you aspire to fit into this dress by this time. Let's not forget that, right? Let's stay on track. I walk beside people in their life to help them reach certain health related goals ultimately.
So when you mentioned the tough conversation, that immediately made me think about the weight thing, because weight is such a sensitive topic. Everything is a sensitive topic in this day and age. You can't even support one thing without people making the assumption that you're bashing, the opposite or the alternate of that thing. And so it's such a be careful what you say, cancel culture type of society that we live in right now. But the rate at which Black women are overweight and experiencing and suffering with obesity is alarming. And we all know and can recite the statistics around heart disease and diabetes and, high blood pressure and all of these things. But then we hold our tongue or don't want to, hurt anybody's feelings when it comes to obesity, which is directly, linked to all of the things that are like killing us at alarming rates.
Mhm.
What type of tough conversations are you having with your clients that you think, and I'm saying this, but I'm not saying you should go call your sister and tell her that she's fat and she got to lose weight. So I don't know how to approach the conversation. I'm not saying that, we are necessarily the people to be having these conversations, but what are some of those conversations that you feel like need to be had in a tough love type of way with good intentions, truly?
Yeah, I mean, once I get into what I call a coaching bubble or a coaching relationship with someone, it's very respectful, right? So I think the conversations can get tough, but they are easier because to start, I let you know that whenever we working together, it's out of love, right? I prefer to work with African American women and women that look like me because I can relate to them better. They can relate to me better. And I like to create a space that is vulnerable, honest, and very raw. And just knowing that, look, I look like you look like me. I'm coming from a good place. I don't want to break you down. You called on me to make you better. And so I have to have harder conversations that you may not want to hear. I have to have that conversation with you saying, look, maybe it wasn't a good idea to eat Burger King, you know what I mean, 2, 3 days in a row. If your goal is to ultimately lose weight, right? And I have those conversations again, prefacing it with, is it okay for me to have a tough conversation with you? You know what I mean? So that it can soften people and allow me to get into the head, right? Because sometimes it's not always what you're saying, it's how you're saying it and how you're presenting it. So when I do have those tough conversations, I kind of, I make it all comfortable first before I just jump in.
Oh, do they? So this is the thing. I feel like and this is the difference also. People are coming to you for these specific things. And it's one thing to approach someone with your unsolicited opinion. It's something else for someone to come to you as a professional with, experience and expertise to help them solve a problem that they say that they want to solve. But for just the sake of just kind of level setting, and I want to, kind of provide some information that may be little known information in our community, because I think there is a lot of misinformation when it comes to the real root causes of these illnesses that are, affecting our community. So, can you talk a little bit about the root causes and maybe some lifestyle things that are impacting Black women specifically when it comes to diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease?
Absolutely. So I preferably focus on obesity. And I focus on obesity because obesity is linked to over 250 medical issues. Okay. So if we focus on obesity and being overweight, then we can address a lot of these other things that's going on, like heart disease and high amounts of cancer and strokes and all those other things, high blood pressure, all those other things. So I tend to focus on watching your weight and really like losing weight. I love to talk about lifestyle medicine. And all that is you using things in your life to medicate yourself as opposed to going to Western medicine. So, lifestyle medicine focuses on 6 pillars. The first one, I believe, is the most important is stress management, because you can be eating right, you can be working out, and you can be stressed so bad that you end up sick with heart disease or cancer, right? So the number one thing for me, and especially for Black women to help with, is managing stress. Black women don't even realize how stressed they are. Black women have this thing about us where we think we can kind of do it all. We have a hustle and bustle mentality, but it is really, really stressing us out and it's making us sick. So, stress management is the first thing that I would focus on for any African American woman. The next thing would be nutrition, right? Trying to follow primarily a whole food, plant based diet is essential. Now, I know we've all grown up with the chitlins and the pork rinds and the chicken and all these things. So I'm not saying you're going to hear the sound of my voice today and you should stop eating meat, but decrease how much meat you're eating. And as time goes on, you decrease it, you decrease it. And next thing you know, you realize you don't even miss it too much. So primarily whole food, plant-based. So that's your fruits, your vegetables, your seeds, your nuts, your legumes, your mushrooms, all things in that nature. The third thing is playtime. I call it playtime because sometimes it's hard to hear working out. Some women just don't like to hear exercise, don't like to hear physical activity. So I personally like to say playtime. Are you getting your playtime in? And I think another misconception is that in order to get playtime in, you have to be in the gym, lifting 500-pound weights and sweating and running on the treadmill. It's not necessary. Go out, go walking, go for a brisk walk. Pilates is low impact and it's great. Yoga, all of those things are good for playtime. The next thing is the fifth thing, fourth or fifth. I think I'm up to fourth. Fourth thing is to avoid risky substances. Marijuana has become legalized in so many places. Drinking, smoking, tobacco, all of these things contribute to poor health. So decrease all of those activities. If you can't avoid it completely, you really want to minimize it. Another one, the fifth one that really goes underneath the table and people don't realize how important it is restorative sleep. And restorative sleep means Eyes are closed. You don't have no blue lights going on maybe 2 hours before bedtime so that you're calming the mind. Blue light meaning your cell phones, the TV. There's so many of us that go to sleep watching TV until we fall asleep. It doesn't prepare your mind for a very good restorative sleep. I think restorative is the key word there. So we should be sleeping at least 6 to, I'm going to even say 7 to 9, 7 to 10 hours uninterrupted at night. And the final pillar of lifestyle medicine is social connection. It's so important to have support and to have people around you that's going to hold you accountable to your goals, help to make you smile, help to make you laugh, bring you peace, bring you positivity. All of these pillars to lifestyle medicine is what I focus on, or I try to guide my clientele through as I coach them and as I hear their goals, because all of these aspects can clear up and reverse anything that you've got going on, unless it's a genetic disorder.
I love the again the holistic approach, how you look at your entire life and not just what you're, coming to me and presenting as the problem, because it could be one of those things, all of those things, one leading to another, a combination of both. But again, your primary care physician who has been trained in Western medicine by the book typically tries to isolate, your physical
Yes.
concerns from your emotional well-being. One of the biggest differences from going to a Chinese medical doctor, and my primary care physician, is how much time was spent with the counseling, the consultation. It almost felt like a talk therapy session, because what he wanted to know most is how much have I been laughing?
Right.
How am I managing my stress? How am I sleeping? And those are literal conversations I've never had with, a primary care physician. So I think we have to start, looking at it that way so that we can have a different conversation if we do choose to go to the primary care physician, because, a lot of these what's considered to be alternative modalities are not necessarily covered by, insurance, and do have to be paid out of pocket. So some of these conversations, I want to make sure we are inclusive of everyone, which is why I want them to be empowering in terms of what you can do for you and not having to rely on someone else. And in terms of the first pillar, which was the stress management, I think the first time I ever saw like a functional doctor, and they did meridian testing and just all of these tests that I had never done before, the stress test was the one that was most surprising for me, because I didn't feel stressed. I felt like I was no longer teaching. So I was already an entrepreneur, and I felt like I was living my best life. And that stress test came back like off the charts, through the roof. And what the doctor ended up explaining is similar to what you just said, that the typical American woman is overly stressed. She's off the charts naturally. Just when she wakes up in the morning, she's off the charts. And so adding the Black
Mhm.
experience on top of that, adding a title of mother or wife, or, whatever your professional titles are and responsibilities, that just adds on to the stress that we are under, and we don't even know it. So when we see those stories of people who, just one day have a stroke and die, or one day just, have this heart attack and die, and we're like, oh my God, how did this happen? That is what we want to avoid. That's why we want to be, proactive. What are some of the things that we could look for in our everyday lives that could be signs that we're stressed and we may not even realize it?
Okay, so that's a very good question. I think I actually did a post one day about my 5 signs that I know that I'm stressed. And it's very, very individualized, right? What stress looks like and feels like to me is very different for what it might feel like from someone else. And part of the work that I do with people is helping them to identify what stress looks like in their life. But a lot of the times when we're stressed out, one, we overeat. We love to go to eating, and that is, believe it or not, a hormonal thing, right? That's because when we are having high levels of stress, our body secretes a hormone called cortisol, which it makes us unsatisfied. We always want to eat, right? So that's one very good sign of stress. You always wanting to eat, and you always wanting.
Over the last 75 years, over 10,000 chemicals have been introduced to our food supply. Yet the EU only allows 300 food additives. But at Thrive Market, we bring our members the highest quality brands and restrict more than 1,000 ingredients found at conventional grocery stores, making the switch is easy with our Healthy Swaps scanner, which finds better versions of all your favorite pantry, snacking, and home essentials without the added junk, dyes, and fillers. Plus, it's all delivered straight to your door. So if you're looking to shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health, go to thrivemarket.com/podcast and you'll get 30% off your first order and a free gift.
Since 1981, Unbound has connected people like you with families worldwide on their self-directed paths out of poverty. A brighter future is possible for these families when we all walk together. Sponsor a child today, and you'll help a family take the first steps on their path. Change their future in just one click. Start walking with your new friend today at unbound.org/walk.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Eat something that's probably not the best for you. It's a sign of stress. Another sign of stress is not being able to sleep, tossing and turning at night, not like just getting through a full night's rest is a sign of stress. Another sign of stress is being easily agitated, right? Like a lot of the times we hear, oh, Black women always got an attitude, but it's because we're stressed, not because we're resting in this very masculine energy instead of being soft and pink. So road rage, always having an attitude, not looking, the resting bitch face. I don't know if I'm able to curse. Like all of those things can be signs of stress. Trying to think if there's anything else that I can think of that's pretty like common.
I know everybody listening to this, especially all the moms listening to this, are like, okay, sis, yes, me, check, check, check. It's funny though that you said like it's very individualized, because I remember, I don't know if it was that same doctor that did the stress test or a therapist later, but in mid conversation where I was talking about the fact that I didn't realize I was stressed, I happened to do just this like a sigh, just a random sigh, deep breath. And they were like, there, right there. That's it. When
Right.
you do that, that's when you're processing. That's your trigger, that you're processing some type of stress. And that was literally just something that I thought was random. That to me was just, I don't know. I'm just sighing. But I think it's self-awareness, knowing yourself, or hiring somebody, hiring a therapist or going to get, testing or whatever you need to do so that you can figure out what these signs are for you, because, going to Google isn't always going to be applicable
It
for you.
sure is not. And Google don't help Black women too much. In my opinion, it's
Talk about that though, because most people are not aware, of why that is. So can you talk about what you mean when you say that?
What I mean is that not all information on the internet is for us. Even just going back to Western medicine, and I've been a nurse, I've been in Western medicine for 15 years, but you got to call a spade a spade. It is not made for African American and African Americans, period. It just, the basis of it was never to include African Americans. They ended up not having a choice, but because we're living and we have to be treated and we're getting sick and all these things, but it was never really intended to be treating African Americans. So just knowing that, even like certain lab values and using certain like a pulse ox and just they it's rated, and what's normal for African Americans can be different for what's normal for the average white American, because our body composition and the way we are, we're just different. So it wasn't built for us. So some of the information that you may get may not specifically be for an African American.
I would say most, because as you mentioned, like the lab values, the I think a lot of us could agree with this statement when we think about the weight. When we were growing up, most Black girls were off the charts. We were considered overweight
Right.
based on that chart that, in my opinion, was for white women, which none of us were ever. We were probably in fourth grade when we were measuring. For a lot of thicker girls, I'll say that for a lot of thicker built girls, we have always been considered quote unquote overweight. So how does that even play a part when it comes to obesity? Because I'm sure we meet the obesity like requirement way before we may truly be as Black women. But how do we start to um I don't know, advocate for ourselves if we know that we're going to go to the prime example? During my pregnancy, I was measuring off of the charts when it came to the what is
Pre
it? The diabetes during pregnancy.
Pre-diabetic. Yeah, pre-diabetic.
Yeah, pre-diabetic. Yes. So I measured as pre-diabetic based on the test, but then based on the daily, blood sugar draws and all of the things, I never had another elevated reading. And so me being the conspiracy theorist that I am,
Right.
I came to the conclusion that, either the test was wrong or it was not designed for Black women. Like my levels just didn't meet your expectation, but my baby wasn't born with, diabetes. I never tested high again, and I didn't develop any of the things that they said I could develop. So I think a lot of women experience the mistreatment, the misdiagnosis, the
Mhm.
misinformation, especially during pregnancy.
Yeah.
And that is the wrong time to have somebody playing with you.
Right. So what I would say to that is, Black women, you are, first of all, you're special. You are very educated. We are the most educated people in the United States. We have to go in knowing the information. We have to educate ourselves before we go in, right? You got to be preparing yourself. You got to do some research, right? And figure out what you're going to ask your doctor. And when they rebuttal back with certain things, you got to be able to rebuttal back. And I know it's tough because they go to school for like 10 years to be a doctor. So you're not going to figure it out in a matter of a couple of days. But try to gather as much information, rely on one another. We all have a nurse in the family, a friend that knows somebody. Get the education and the knowledge you need before you go and sit in front of the doctor. The next thing I would also tell you to do is ask the doctor, how do you incorporate lifestyle medicine? Or how can you incorporate lifestyle medicine? Do you know what lifestyle medicine is? Well, this is something that I want to incorporate in my plan of care. How can we do that? And then, I'm sorry, not for nothing, look at your physician, right? If the physician is not taking care of themselves, how can they take care of you? I have been to plenty of doctor's office, and I'm not fat shaming or shaming anyone, but the truth is the truth, right? You can't go to a doctor who doesn't even get up to touch you when they see you, doesn't even turn around to look at you to have a conversation with you, and or their stomachs are overlapping them and they're telling you, well, you need to lose weight and you need to go walk. Like they can't take care of themselves. How can they take care of you? So, like I said, a couple of things: educate yourself and make sure you really know the physician that you're going to see. See how they take care of themselves, because that can determine a lot about how they're going to treat you.
I had someone say that we need to shift our thinking when we go to the doctor, that there's two experts in the room,
Right.
that doctor may be the expert in whatever they've been trained, to do, but you're the expert on you. And you can't let some stranger
Yeah.
who's may have never seen you before, tell you what you're experiencing, tell you what that means, tell you that, no, that's normal when you know your body. And we have read, or I have definitely read and had conversations with so many women women who were diagnosed years and years after their initial complaint because people
Mhm.
weren't listening, or, people were rushing them out of the room, or people just were, telling them that it was one thing that they just knew in their spirit that it was not. And so we truly do have to be willing to educate ourselves so that we can be advocates for ourselves. And when it comes to just using our common sense and just looking at who we're talking to, we got to be willing to do that too,
Yeah.
and listening to what they're saying and what they're not saying. I've talked on Instagram about, me going to the OB, and I have Kaiser. So Kaiser, you just see who you see. It just is one of those things. But I, had a visit with, was going in for my annual, trying to get a pap smear, and found out at the visit that they don't do pap smears every year anymore. It's not even every 3 years anymore. Now they recommend that it's every 5 years. And
Hmm.
in this same visit, where this woman wanted to pacify me and wanted me to feel like it's okay, you can just wait 5 years. Two things that she said that were alarming. The first thing that she said was, and by the way, when she was explaining this 5 year thing, she was saying, it takes ovarian cancer like 10 years to develop anyway, as if that was going to be comforting for me.
Oh,
So
gee.
that's red flags,
Right.
alarms going out, right? But then in the same conversation, she said, oh yeah, it's been more than 3 years for me. I need to make sure that I get mine booked. I'm not good at that. I keep forgetting to get it done. And I'm just like, ma'am,
Right. Right.
ma'am,
Right.
ma'am, if you are not even taking care of yourself, how are you up in here counseling me and trying to convince me that I'm crazy for wanting to be proactive with my health?
Right.
So I am in agreement with everything you just said. Y'all would be alarmed if you saw some of the personal habits and lifestyles of the people who we are literally putting our lives in the hands of.
And
So
can I
we
just say
definitely, yes,
also
please do.
that, you know, the medical professionals, a lot of them are sick. This is me coming from a background where I did a lot of bedside nursing. The doctors, the nurses, they are not the healthiest set of people. The way they eat, I mean, the snacks that they bring in, the way that they don't, or maybe they don't take care of themselves. I used to work a whole shift and not eat, not pee, not, like, it's a very sick industry. And this is why we are all continuing to get sick, because we're relying on this industry that's very capitalistic. It was funded by the Carnegie's, and they were a drug company back then. That's how they had the money to fund Western medicine and Western education, right? So it started off as a way to get rich, and it's continuing to propel in that direction. And if you guys don't start seeking guidance outside of healthcare for chronic issues like diabetes and heart problem, and heart disease and cancers and strokes and all of these very common things, we will continue to get sicker and sicker and sicker.
When you even mention, like the real reason it was started and who was really behind it and how it's all, it's the medical industry is an industry at this point. It is, or not even at this point. I guess that's what it was established to be an
Yeah,
actual industry that competes with all of the other business industries out there. So
yeah,
when we wonder why, the FDA has approved X, Y, and Z, when we wonder why your insurance doesn't cover X, Y,
yeah,
Z, when we wonder why these pharmaceutical companies are, protected from certain lawsuits and litigations and things, don't wonder, because we know
right,
why.
right.
We know why. But until we get real, until we start taking matters into our own hands and really start educating ourselves and being the advocates that we and our families need us to be, then we are going to continue to be statistics. And that makes me also think back to what you said about obesity being linked to over 250 medical issues. I did a post on Threads the other day where I asked, are there any medical professionals here who are going to admit how many hours of nutrition that you took in medical school? And I
Yeah,
got
exactly.
answers, but the theme of the responses was that it is not enough. So when I think about food, obesity,
Mm-hmm.
illnesses, and then these quote unquote medical professionals
Mm-hmm.
having very little
Very
education on
little.
how food is
Very little.
impacting
Yep.
our lives. It's like it all makes sense. The
Yeah.
system is broken.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And as a medical professional that went to school, I'm telling you, we got maybe one class, maybe one class. The class was probably split. Maybe
Mm,
one class. And then
mm.
even okay, so I'll just really quick give you a quick example of a client that I was coaching. It was a young man, and I think he was 13, and don't get me to lying. I mean, I think he was like almost 300 pounds, but he was very tall. He was like almost like 6'1", and he was 13. But I had to have a conversation with his mom, and I had to say, "So how did we get here?" Right? Like, tough conversations. How did we get him to 300 pounds? Like, this is not just overnight. Like, what happened? So she started explaining to me that he has almost like a gallon of milk, right, per couple of days. And I couldn't even be mad at mom at that point, because in school, right, I was taught as a medical professional that when children become 12 months of age, they are supposed to have milk, cow's milk. But the truth is cow's milk is for cows. I don't see no other animal walking up to me as a black woman and saying, "Let me suck your nipple," right? Why are we as humans basically sucking the nipple, quotations, I guess, of a cow? It's not meant for us. That's not meant for us. And so it's to grow a baby calf into a 500-pound cow, which is what it was doing to this young man. But how could I be mad at her? Because I'm sure a healthcare professional told her that's what builds calcium. Make sure he's
Milk
drinking
does the body
cow's milk.
good.
Milk does the body good. Like I couldn't even be mad. So it is true. I believe that Western medicine is amazing for acute issues, heart attacks, but long term, we were not taught. I was not taught. I can say because I've been through it. I was not taught to properly teach people how to be healthy. I was not in school.
Listen, the milk campaign, and I'm putting campaign in bold underlined letters,
Yeah.
was literally a marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Y'all, again, Conspiracy Co is back again, because the food pyramid, the milk campaigns, just
Yep.
all of these things that we grew up believing and buying into, and it wasn't just us, it was our parents too. And
Right.
if we look at, we talk about the medical system, educational system is still, it is the same, and I came out of the classroom because I felt like I was literally doing a disservice by being in here promoting what I knew was misinformation to these children. But beyond the misinformation in the classroom, the milk that they serve on a daily basis in the school, you can't go into a school and find individual waters that are being served to children, but you can find a milk carton available for every single one.
Mhm.
And we wonder why our children are
Mhm.
developing these diseases younger and younger. And my kids right now in 2024, my kids' teachers, questioning the fact that I say my kids are non-dairy. Oh, but is it an allergy?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. If that's what I need to put on this paperwork, so that I can guarantee that you don't give my child the milk or the cheese or any of these other things, toxic things that I don't want my children, consuming, I'm looked at as, you the crazy mama. But listen, I don't care what they got to call me or you. If you got to be called crazy so that you can take control
Yep.
of your health, then so be it. I am here for it. I think that this has been a very informative and enlightening, and hopefully provided like an awakening to y'all. And you know me, I'm gonna tell you, it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. You can keep this information to yourself. We are literally making up alarming statistics, like in every category. Okay. Black women are the most educated, but we are sick as hell as well. And so we need to make sure that we are doing our part by not only educating ourselves, but making sure we are educating our communities as well. So please share your contact information, your Instagram, your social media, your where we can find you online, so that the Girl Stop Playing audience can stay connected.
Sure. So my Instagram handle is Nurse Coach Smith. That's mainly what I'm on. And if you go into my bio, you can click the link in my bio. If you would like to book free coaching sessions to see if we can gel and and rock out together in a coaching session, in a coaching bubble, just click the link in my bio. Thank you so much. I appreciate being here. I love what you're doing for the community. And good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, for educating and pouring into the Girl Stop Playin audience. I have enjoyed this conversation. Share it with a friend, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.
Over the last 75 years, over 10,000 chemicals have been introduced to our food supply. Yet the EU only allows 300 food additives. But at Thrive Market, we bring our members the highest quality brands and restrict more than 1,000 ingredients found at conventional grocery stores. Making the switch is easy with our Healthy Swaps scanner, which finds better versions of all your favorite pantry, snacking, and home essentials without the added junk, dyes, and fillers. Plus, it's all delivered straight to your door. So if you're looking to shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health, go to thrivemarket.com/podcast and you'll get 30% off your first order and a free gift.
Need parts now? O'ReillyAuto.com offers in-store pickup, same-day home delivery, or next-day home shipping. Get more parts your way at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.